We're honored once again this year to be nominated for the Rondo Hatton Classic Horror Award for Best Multimedia Site for 2020. Voting for the awards has already begun, and the deadline for voting is Sunday night at midnight, April 25th, 2021. Anyone can vote just by sending an email to David Colton at taraco@aol.com with Rondo Awards 2020 in the subject line, and your vote for Frankenstein Minute for Best Multimedia Site in the body of the email. Of course, you can also visit rondoaward.com and get instructions for voting on the full ballot for 2020.
How do you do? We're about to unfold the story of
the Bride of Frankenstein.
She's alive! Alive!
A monster created from cadavers out of rifled graves. A tale that sent my blood into icy creeps.
Would you like to hear what happened after that?
Well, we warned you.
You've been warned. Welcome back to Frankenstein Minute, the podcast that dissects the Universal Frankenstein film series minute by minute. I'm Bill Evenson.
And I'm Thom Lang, and you join us for minute 67 of 1935's Bride of Frankenstein. We're in the throes of the creation scene now. We're going to get to Full Metal Strickfaden pretty quickly here.
Yeah, we're getting into it, definitely.
The kites have been released, and the windlass is going crazy, sending out the wire.
Yeah, that reel.
That looks dangerous.
It totally does. That's my note. If you tried to stop it, you'd
you'd
really
lose
your
an
hand.
arm.
Yeah, it's like, I don't know if you've ever been fishing.
Yep.
Anybody ever go fishing?
Yeah,
I don't do a lot of fishing.
Not since I was a little boy, but yeah.
But like for me, it's more like Jaws. They kind of go fishing in that one.
That's how I go fishing, is watch Jaws. Yeah.
Yeah, you just watch Jaws. You got any more about the kites? I don't know. Do you see the kites go up?
You see the kites go up. It's a miniature shot. Intercut with a real...
Yeah, okay, so the kites are a miniature.
Intercut with a real shot of lightning. That shot and that sound effect got around.
Okay.
It's actually now the Castle Thunder, I believe, is the official that thunderclap that you hear. And it's still used today. I just heard it in a movie we were watching a couple weeks ago.
So you recognize the...
It's a very distinct thunderclap.
Yeah, interesting.
And I've read
hey, don't mess with success.
That's right. It's like the Wilhelm scream.
Well,
but that really stands out when they almost to the point of distraction. Yeah.
Whereas the lightning clap isn't a very dynamic sound. It's just so yeah. Once you got it down, you don't mess with it. You got it
right. So then,
so then we see Clive run down the stairs.
Yeah, and he looks pretty good. This might have been pre-horse riding accident because he's pretty spry. He books down those stairs like nothing.
He books down the stairs.
Unless I'm a child of the 70s. Come on.
I guess. No, I mean, is that something people said? Is that just a Minnesota thing? I don't know.
In the 70s, I didn't go much beyond Minnesota, so I had no idea.
Anyways, yeah, he books down the stairs, and then he goes over to his station.
His workstation.
And then this is what I have for what happens next. There's some quick cutting. Mm-hmm. So they show Henry operating some gadget. That's the thing. I don't know what it is. Yep. Then it cuts to something sparking or flashing. Then Henry operating the gadget. Then something sparking or flashing. Then Henry operating the gadget. Then something sparking or flashing. Then Henry operating the gadget. Then something sparking or flashing. Then Henry operating the gadget. Then something sparking or flashing. Then Pretorius pulling levers. And then something sparking. So it's five
throwing
cuts.
The switches. The levers.
Yes, he throws those levers.
Yeah.
And, this is what struck me while watching this minute by minute is it's 5 cuts of Henry and something going on.
And Henry and some Strickfaden piece of machinery.
And it's my opinion that the third cut is to something that Strickfaden called the cosmic ray diffuser. And I've just probably spoiled my notes for next week because I was going to talk about that. But that is apparently something completely different than the cosmic diffuser. That's right.
Yeah, well, one diffuses the entire cosmos, whereas the other just diffuses the rays.
Diffuses the rays. If only Ben Grimm had a cosmic ray diffuser. Everything would have been different. But yeah, it's weird when looking at those notes. Now I'm just going to go off on the Strickfaden stuff, I guess. But
the film goes off on the Strickfaden stuff for a few more minutes.
That's true. It's hard to tell when he named it.
Yeah,
named stuff. I think he had these names maybe all set by the 70s or whatever when he was touring. He would take this stuff on tour, right? He would take it to exhibitions or whatever.
Exhibitions, schools, things like that, fairs. Yeah.
I don't know for sure what names were given to things, but in that book I mentioned last week that we both have, what is it called? Frankenstein's Electrician or something like that?
Like
I
that,
can't remember what it's called.
Yeah, it's like Frankenstein's Electrician.
And
so he comes in, there's your problem. We gotta...
Hey, look at all these sparks.
What the heck?
You're going to start a fire.
You guys aren't grounding this stuff. What the hell?
So it's hard to tell.
Yeah, what is what? When was it
what,
named? And,
Anyway, so then after that...
I think that was the last time they were used, was Blackenstein, if I'm not mistaken. I don't know what happened to
Not
him.
the reference I maybe would have chosen from the early 70s. I think you've made a decent argument for us expanding our minute by minute podcast to go. It's definitely going to be Abbott and Costello.
Bud Abbott, Lou Costello, Meet Frankenstein.
Bud Abbott, Lou Costello, Meet Frankenstein.
Young Frankenstein.
Followed by Young Frankenstein, followed by Blackenstein. I've never seen it, so that'll be good.
Oh,
we'll watch it
you're in for
minute.
a real treat then, because it is cinema at its finest. I did watch that Rock and Roll Frankenstein that we had discussed a while back.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, don't.
So after these quick cuts with Frankie. Frankie Frankenstein.
Yes.
With Henry, it then becomes like more manic, and it's you can't.
That's marvelous.
Everybody called him Frankie.
Yeah, at school, the kids would. That was his nickname in college.
There's no getting around it.
On his football jersey. Can you see Colin Clive playing football?
After cutting back and forth to Frankie, then it becomes more manic, and it's
yeah. There's a lot of really quick cuts, very stark lighting,
and it's here actually where you'll see that. Okay, so first of all, I think this tension is really built up by doing these 5 quick cuts from Henry, and then it becomes manic. It's a really clever way of ramping things up.
Ted Kent knew what he was doing.
Yeah,
he was no slouch as an editor. So
apparently. I mean, this is a triumph of editing in this minute and this
I think
movie.
Of cinematography, editing, and scoring.
Yes.
And direction, because without that, none of that other stuff would have happened.
Yes.
Got to give Whale a little bit of credit here.
Well, and that's what I don't know. We don't know the details of how much is Whale, sitting over his shoulder in the editing process, or if he handed him all these shots, because we got a lot to talk about. There's a lot of shots.
Yeah.
It's interesting because Henry is sort of stationed where he is in the room now.
Right.
And while Pretorius will move around from here to there.
Running around from machine to machine.
Yeah, and sometimes just to look at it, I think, and then maybe flinch from some sparks.
It's an upstaging technique so that you're watching Thesiger run around, whereas Clive stands still through most of it.
Yeah.
I would almost say it's Thesiger just upstaging.
Well, if it is, it's a failure because I didn't really think about it until doing it minute by minute because it's so manic. It's so
because there's so much happening.
Fire and smoke and noise.
Yeah, we get a lot of Metropolis stuff going on here. Clearly, they're trying to top 31 in every way possible.
Yeah. Well, one of the things that happens during, and I didn't mention it before, is that those actual 5 shots of Henry, the first 2 are from sort of a medium angle, and then the next 2 are a little bit closer, and the last one, we're right up on him. So we're getting closer.
Looking down on him, it's a little more distorted, yeah.
Yeah, and that's where...
The first 2 are straight on, fairly standard medium shot, medium close-up. The third one is, just a fairly standard close-up, but by the time the 4th and 5th, they get that really tight looking down, and the lighting is even more harsh on those last 2.
Yes.
In a good way.
Yeah, in a good way. I think it's going to get even... Next week, we're going to see even more of that.
Yeah.
That's going to be a highlight of next week's episode. Mm-hmm. Some of the stuff that I think... Okay, this is what I already mentioned it, I think. So this is my notes for this week. I'm sorry. But I think we see a Wimhurst machine, which is it has spinning discs and sparks and shit.
Oh.
Which is an actual thing.
It is, and that features very prominently in the Hammer Frankenstein films.
Yes.
It's almost the centerpiece in Curse of Frankenstein, and it shows up in almost all of the others with Cushing. So that's
okay.
So yeah, it's definitely a real thing.
Okay.
Yeah, they're spinning opposite each other.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, it looks a little different in this, and I just wasn't sure.
But yeah, I'm fairly sure.
It looks like because it's got.
I'm fairly sure that's what that is.
So like if you look it up, and I did spend a minute, watching videos of people making their own Wimhurst machines on YouTube or whatever, and they don't look quite
burning
like
their
this.
houses down. And
Yeah, but it's the same idea, like you said, discs spinning opposite each other.
Yeah, the one in Hammer films looks different too.
Well, isn't it? Remind me, is it huge?
It's pretty big in those, yeah, because like I said, it's the centerpiece.
Yeah,
because they didn't have anywhere near the budget or the space facilities to pull off something like this at Hammer. Certainly not in the very, very first one. Curse of Frankenstein is the one that kicked off their horror gothic series.
Yeah.
So they had to kind of do it in a different way. And they didn't want to copy Universal. I mean, they set out in almost every way possible to be different. And so the creation plays out very differently. But yeah, the Wimhurst, it's very prominent in almost every shot.
And in color.
And in color,
which
no
is
less.
affected in some way, I'm sure.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, Ludwig.
Yeah, so then the third shot, I think, is the cosmic ray diffuser, like I talked about
it's like
already, which is, it's just a lot of sparks flying across different things that look like springs.
Yep.
The shots of the kites, like you said, those are
a miniature.
Miniature. They also, strangely, don't convey a sense of movement to me, but those spools are moving constantly, so presumably the kites are getting further and further away, I guess. But I guess that's in real life, too, when you fly a kite, which I haven't in a while.
You wouldn't see it.
Doesn't seem to be going that fast or whatever. So this is have something from the Egermont novelization, from the 1936 Egermont novelization. For 2 hours, the lights played about the strange instruments, and the laboratory hummed with the caged power of the elemental force. Then at last, Henry decided that the moment had come for cosmic power to be used.
2 hours. Thankfully, we don't see that play out in real time, and there's nothing in the film to give the impression that much time has passed.
It's just all done in close-ups and quick cuts for 2 hours.
Now somebody will do a YouTube edit for 2 hours of it.
Yeah, why not?
Yeah.
Well, I don't see how.
The script
It'll
mentions.
probably be me.
Yeah, there you go. The script mentions there's a power outage. Everything goes dark except the two balls on either end of the bride, with arcs of electricity shooting back and forth and then through her.
I like that idea. That would have been cool.
It's cool, but the everything else stopping while this happens, I think, wouldn't be nearly as spectacular.
I suppose you're right.
Yeah, this is much more visceral.
It would give it maybe a more postmodern sensibility where you're taken out of the moment, and I guess it'd probably be like a joke.
Yeah,
you might even laugh.
Yeah, the power all of a sudden.
Yeah,
more mayhem. Then Henry's shouts, "It's coming up!" and it's coming up. And I don't think he means,
which is interesting.
I think he means the table and everything. It's all coming up.
I think that's correct. But in the first movie, there was a man that he brought to life, and he quite definitively and distinctly and historically referred to it as it.
It's alive.
And, not to spoil anything.
Yeah.
But yeah. So he says, it's coming up. Then we see Carl saying something. This is the part I noticed. There's no sound coming from his mouth. So my assumption is that these shots are out of order.
Oh, absolutely.
And that originally what Carl was shouting down was, what's your favorite song off the McCartney 2 album? It's coming up.
Thank you.
But in the script, he said, it's temporary secretary.
There we go.
Thank you. These are my jokes. That's the jokes. Nice. But if you look, the dialogue for this minute it's coming up. That's it. It's the only thing anybody says this week. Next week, it's even less.
Well, we can have a short minute after the epic one the last few weeks.
I think we're gonna have to do a bonus episode where we just dissect the McCartney 2 album.
Have
kind of important album, Beatles history.
Have fun with that, then.
John Lennon was a big fan of the song "Coming Up." So if you're over there thinking it's not a good song,
I didn't say that.
It was a big deal. So is that it?
It's coming up
like a flower.
That's about it. Yeah, that's all. If Henry fiddles with something or other, and the minute ends. That's all I had.
If you were so inclined, you could follow us on join the Frankenstein Minute Village. Join the discussion. That's a Facebook discussion group. It's called Frankenstein Minute Village. And so look that up and join and see the amazing artwork from Doc Ivan.
And post articles that we find on occasion out there in the interwebs.
I could post more, to be honest. There are articles that I look at and I go, some of them are just too dumb. You know what I mean?
If they're dumb,
there are actually.
don't bother.
It's kind of nice once you set your mind to it to try to find articles that people are writing about these movies that are so fucking old. That there are a lot of them.
Yeah. Oh, there are still. Yeah.
It's just a lot of them are dumb, so that I didn't bother to post them.
Well, a lot of them just belch out the same stuff we've heard again and again and again, and 9 times out of 10 it's wrong to begin with. So why bother repeating it?
It's an environment in which you can get your writing published on a website and say, look at this thing I wrote, and it's pretty, and it's got a nice logo on it, and it's got pictures of Frankenstein on it or whatever.
Right.
So therefore, you get a lot of people who just belch out, like you say, the same old bullshit in a list form.
Yeah. What wasn't one of them like the top 20 portrayals of the Frankenstein monster or something? And
I like that one because the person writing it actually had some thoughts, and that was a controversial thought to say that De Niro was
the best part of that movie. Yeah.
Well, okay, what was the best part of that movie?
The end.